Hey, good afternoon. It's Adam Fitzgerald. I'm the co-host of the Darkened Hour, and we have some discussion with you today. And who better than to have the Libertarian community along with us about probably the most controversial tweet ever tweeted on viral media by the Libertarian Committee movement itself. And with us today is Reed Coverdale. Reed, you are fastly catching up to being the most banned libertarian person on viral media. You're not at Ryan Dawson's level yet, but you gave the idea for the tweet, which caused quite the firestorm, but we're going to get into that in a minute. Reed, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Adam. Thanks for having me on.
Clint, second time we're meeting today, and you are the host of the Liberty Lockdown podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, dude, my pleasure.
Yeah, and Jose Gallison, first time we're meeting. Jose, you're one of the co-hosts of the Tower Gang Pod. Very crude and very invigorating group of young men that talk about the serious issues with a humorous topic on top of it. And I wanted to get you on. Thank you very much for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me. I may other show No Way Jose as well. But it is funny though. You say we have a crash show, but I had Brandon Concert on my show recently, and that literally happened from one of our trans fans on Tower Power Hour, which is ironic considering they hooked us up. So
yeah, you also have probably one of the best topics to talk with Richard Booth about the Oklahoma City bombing podcast. That series is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, I genuinely think it's the best OKC bombing podcast series.
Yeah, easily. There's not many, but that's the best that I've seen so far.
And that's not even trying to fluff myself up. That's actually all Richard Booth's doing. So
right.
Yeah.
No, it's a must listen for anybody out there that doesn't know what happened in OKC. It's eye opening.
Absolutely. Let's get right into it. There was a tweet made by the New Hampshire Liberty Party, New Hampshire. This is the tweet. That's
oh my God, I haven't seen this yet. This is awful. I can't believe it.
This is well, we're going to get into that in a minute, Clint.
A little milk toast for my taste.
We'll see. What I wanted to show was this is the tweet that caused such a firestorm from everybody. It went viral for a minute there on viral media and Twitter and even on major national networks. So happy holidays. And this was tweeted at 3:37. And it was tweeted by the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. Now, the idea came from you, Reed, regarding this tweet. And obviously, this caused such a brush with many people, including people like Justin Amash, who basically came right out and said that this is, an abhorrent tweet. And of course, we had people like Meghan McCain, of all people, who retweeted this 6 times on her Twitter. And as you could see, this is the official Twitter account of the state of New Hampshire's Liberty Party. I hope no one ever does anything like this to any of you. I really fear for the future of the world and how we come to treat each other. What an ironic statement that is.
No kidding.
So
I think I counted 7, but go on.
This tweet, by the way, was also on the New York Post. Now, I'm in New York, and I can tell you the New York Post is a rag personally. Meghan McCain slams New Hampshire Libertarian Party over celebrating dad's death. And of course, they show the tweet that I just showed you before, and they talk about how abhorrent the tweet is. And I thought it really was an interesting topic because for me anyway, I looked at it from a much more broader spectrum of when is it permissible to critique people, even if it's relatives of a dead loved one, regarding egregious crimes such as mass murder, which John McCain participated in with his draconian policies in the Middle East and geopolitics in general in the last 30 years. So is it warranted to critique the relatives of grieving sons and daughters of these people regarding their silence on the matter? Not that she participated, but she certainly advocated for these policies all throughout the years, when she was on The View, and even when she left The View. And I made a collage video last night real quick, and I just wanted to bring up 2 areas. One is the area of psychology, and the other, the moral ambiguity of the tweet itself. So who better than to opine on this and give his thoughts about this tweet and what it meant than you, Reed? You gave the idea for this tweet to the New Hampshire Party, Libertarian Party. What was your intention behind this tweet?
Well, I've made this, or at least a very similar one, on my personal account a couple times when I had an account, and it caused a lot of trouble, but nothing like this. And so we, I am in the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire's comms, the communications committee. So I help come up with ideas for tweets and like different things we can say, different videos we should tweet out. I also help with the ads that the LP New Hampshire's put out for Jeremy Kauffman, or we just did a huge one on Defend the Guard a few days ago. And it's a very well put together video by Dan Smots. It's narrated by Scott Horton. It shows Ron Paul and Dave Smith and all these different images of war taking place around the world. And that got like maybe 1,000 retweets, or not even 1,000 retweets, like 1,000 likes, and maybe like, I forget how many thousand views, but it didn't go viral at all. It was kind of disappointing, actually. We tagged a lot of big names like Abby Martin and Caitlin Johnstone, and tried to get every big account we could to retweet it, and it just like kind of didn't go a lot of places. So what I've noticed is when you're tweeting stuff out like this, it's kind of a sliding scale between exposition and shock value. So if it's just shock value, it's no good. If it's just nothing but tweeting something that'll get people to stare at you in shock and disgust, like that's not really worth anything. And if it's just pure exposition, no one is ever going to read it. No one's, even if it's the most important information in the world. So it's always about like finding where along that line you can kind of center it and get a good mixture of shock value and exposition. So this was definitely like leaning heavily on the shock value a little bit more than the exposition, but it's given the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire like 3,500 new followers already. The Defend the Guard video that I was talking about has, I think, like 30,000 more views than it did before the tweet went out. Now we, like you said, we've been in the New York Post, we've been in all these publications, and what is it for? It's for spitting on John McCain's legacy and mocking his daughter. And in the New York Post, specifically toward the end of the article, they're talking about like the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire doubles down and says, like, we will dance on the graves of war criminals if no one else will. And it's really distinguishing libertarians against warmongers. Like that is the obvious distinction that's taking place here, regardless of how mean-spirited the tweet is. Like the only other time libertarians get into the news like this, when they're trending on Twitter, when they're making national news, when you've got hundreds of thousands of people like knowing what's going on with them, it's when they say something stupid about like age of consent laws, or they don't know what Aleppo is, or something fucking stupid like that. So at least with this, even though it was definitely in bad taste and shocking and everything, this was something that got us talked about in relation to how much we hate John McCain and his legacy and his daughter for spreading his legacy. And like you said, like, she's supported all of his views on TV, like when he was still alive and after his death, saying like everything that he did was great. She's kind of hijacked his legacy to further her own career. She's even like selling her books with photo ops of her book on her dad's gravestone and shit. Like she lives off of her dad's legacy. So it's not like she's just some waitress or some janitor or some job that has absolutely nothing to do with her dad's legacy, and we're just laughing at her because her dad died or something. This is specifically because she is maybe even more influential than he was. Like she wasn't elected into government office, so she wasn't voting on policies, but she's been one of the heads of The View, which is a huge TV show that everybody knows about, and she's pushed all of his disgusting ideology and everything. So that was the thought behind it, that will be a little shocking, a little distasteful, but we're gonna at the end of the day kind of drive a point home. And to be honest, this is way better than I could have hoped for. Like at first when it started popping off like crazy, I was kind of like, oh God, like we'll see how this goes. But not only did it kind of show us who amongst our own ranks was kind of squeamish on this topic and didn't really like feel comfortable going after the warmongers at this level or whatever, but it also, like I said earlier, just gave this very distinct separation between libertarians and warmongers, and that we hate them, and that's what we're known as right now. Like even if we're assholes who hate John McCain and his daughter, and we hate them so much because of what they've done, because of the policies that they've advocated, that we're willing to make like this awful tweet about them and not feel bad about it. So I think it's turned out amazingly. I I was kind of iffy on it at first, but I'm ecstatic now.
Just to follow up to that, Reed, if I can, and then I want to get to the thoughts of Clint and Jose here. Are you worried about the backlash from certain libertarians, such as Justin Amash and Spike Cohen, who spoke critically about the tweet and what it will do for the long-range term of libertarian movement?
So this is where I might disagree with Jose. I don't think that should have been tweeted out from the national account. I think the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire has fulfilled a distinct role of being the spearhead of always pushing the kind of controversial, hard in the paint, real hardline libertarian stances. Like some of the other Libertarian Party accounts, like they try to warm up to. We got blocked by Jesse Kelly the other week for like calling him out on kind of getting soft on the FBI, and we've gotten blocked by tons of liberals, tons of conservatives on both sides of the aisle, because that's just what we do. Like we're the hard line. If you step out of line and you're not repping libertarianism the way you should be, or if you're a conservative or a liberal and you're kind of getting flaky on something you're supposed to be good on, we're going to call you out. We're going to be divisive. We're going to be just laying the hard libertarian stance down. And we're just one state affiliate out of, I think there's one in Hawaii too. So out of 50 state affiliates, we're kind of the tip of the spear. And so, yeah, I think you're going to have backlash, and I think it's okay. Like, I actually wasn't upset at Justin Amash for the way he responded, because I 100% expected it from him. He's a respectability politics guy, so I wasn't surprised at all. It's like, whatever, dude. What I was actually upset about is people who try to ride the line, straddle the fence, and act like they're super anti-state, super anti-government. Things were so bad when Trump was in there because of his mean tweets. I'd take some mean tweets right now. And then we have mean tweets and they fucking lose their minds over it because it's not decent enough or whatever. Those are the people I'm more upset about. So I think I don't think this is, if this was enough to get you to leave the Libertarian Party or the Liberty Movement, I don't think you were very serious in the first place, because there's way more egregious shit we're up against, like the war crimes that these people are actually committing. So if that was enough to get you to, kind of chicken out, then I don't think you're much of a loss.
Clint, you basically opined pretty much in agreement with the New Hampshire tweet, and basically you tweeted this yesterday, which I thought was pretty bold. Oh, boo-hoo, the lady that wants America to be treated like Al-Qaeda and thrown in Gitmo without trial is upset. Let's all come to her defense. Miss me with your sensitivities to those that advocate war crimes. And it was because of your tweet that I made the video. And I thought that was for me, the deal breaker regarding when is it okay to critique relatives of deceased war criminals. And he would be labeled a war criminal if the United States were privy to the Rome Statutes, which is the International Criminal Court. When is it okay to criticize these people, Clint? And is it morally, I guess, sound to do so?
Well, it's morally sound if they share some of the moral burden. I mean, if you are strongly opposed to your parents' actions, then obviously you share none of the guilt. I think that's a given. Like, none of us are collectivists. None of us believe that there's guilt by association or things like that. So she has a long history of advocating on behalf of her father's policies, on behalf of neoconservatism, on behalf of a paternalistic view of the world where you can bomb and bring democracy to these poor, uneducated masses. She also believes that the people on January 6th should be put in Gitmo, a place where torture has occurred. She's a fucking scumbag. Let's just say what it is, Like, I don't even understand the sensitivity that people are projecting. Like, it strikes me, it sounds crazy because I never say this, but it strikes me as deeply racist. Like, she's this blonde, blue-eyed lady in America. We all have to be concerned about her feelings. How about the millions of dead people because of her ideology? Do you have any concern for those people? Where is the fucking the teeter-totter in your worldview where you go like, okay, maybe this doesn't matter nearly as much compared to this? I think that tweet was a brilliant mechanism to decipher who actually understands the evil of our empire. You know, like how many in the Libertarian Party are actually opposed to war, to nonstop, consistent war our entire lives? How many? Not enough, apparently. You know, the fact that we had so many people that have, you know, allegedly become our leaders that come out in opposition to this is an embarrassment. I'm embarrassed by these people. And
So
I mean
just
that sincerely.
Just like I did with the follow-up with Reed. Clint, are you more worried about a backlash from the libertarian movement regarding
No.
that tweet? No, you're not.
No.
No.
If they think that I or us or we are going to back off because they're upset, they're out of their minds. I mean, this is probably the most important thing. You know, it's what could lead towards World War III. It's what could lead towards Armageddon. You know, like, no, I am absolutely not going to back off on tweets. Good God. I just can't believe that this is even a conversation, honestly. Like the fact that their priorities are so misaligned. Like you're so concerned with people thinking that we're too radical. If it's too radical to want peace, then what are we doing here? You know, like it just doesn't make sense to me.
Jose, you opined just earlier today on the LPNH tweet. Keep in mind that in a libertarian or anarchist society, the most common method to deal with advocates of atrocities would likely be through social means. Bullying war criminals and their simps is a good thing. Was the tweet actually a good thing to do, even if it comes at the behest of a grieving relative?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, like I said, through social means, that's how you're going to deal with these issues. I mean, I genuinely have no problem with bullying people who do stuff like that. I do, like, because it does provide a lot of our circles. The question goes like, what happens in anarchist society? Like, how do you deal with people who are sympathize for socialism, communism, all sorts of other things? Since the idea is that we're against aggression. Obviously, you can go to deep theory, and there's other ways to handle it, private societies, whatever. But let's say we, aside from all that, the big thing is going to be things like this. Like, I have no sympathy whatsoever for Meghan McCain, and I will 100% say I take joy in her pain. I do. Fuck her. Like, I just genuinely do. I mean, if that makes me evil, so be it. I don't care. Like Reed said, I do disagree a little bit. I don't think it was in bad taste, and I think it should have been from National, personally.
I'm not surprised.
So yeah, no, I don't like. And it's well known. I'm not going to go diatribe on it, but I'm not even necessarily an advocate of political engaging in the political sphere in like voting, whatever, what have you. I'm not a big fan of the LP in that sense. And the reason why is because I think the only reason, if there is a reason for them, is exactly what Reed did. Like, that's it. But the problem is, I think, is that's not sustainable. As you've seen some of the actors start coming out. Now, if it prove me wrong, I mean, I guess, sure, prove me wrong. Keep this train moving. Keep bullying the people who do this and freak out about it. Because we were talking yesterday. Like, I know that maybe the follow up here you gave to them is like, are we worried about what this will happen for the movement? No, I don't care. I mean, if I would rather have 10 people with a shared sense of purpose than 20 people that are kind of loosely connected. If I have some task I'm trying to perform. I far value quality over quantity. I think a radicalized, 5 people is better than a, milk toast 50 or whatever. I'm just making up numbers here. But yeah, I genuinely don't care. If this offends you, sorry, go away. I don't care. So, yeah.
Right. Now, obviously, this has been quite a cause for contention and debate about the moral issue of pushing the ticket too far, for example. But what is that line? And where does it basically cut off at? Now, I thought this is a great medium here regarding that tweet. Is that going too far, or is that going even too little? So, Reed, on a moral issue, on a moral basis, we're talking about moral ambiguity. Did that tweet go too far, according to you, or was it too little?
No, it didn't go too far. I don't know how much farther you could get away with it still being effective. Like, to me, it's not so much about morality; it's about what is going to work. And I do think that was like getting pretty close to the line of like what would actually be effective for messaging versus, you know, something that people would just be like, oh, that's just evil. Because you know, I agree with Jose in some sense. Like, if you're going to, I mean, to Jose, well, kind of to Jose's point, but also kind of countering what he's saying, like, the reason this took off so big is because it was from a Libertarian Party official account. Like, even, I mean, Clint has twice the followers the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire does, but I think if he had tweeted out the identical tweet, it wouldn't have blown up the way it did. It was because it was an official, verified political party.
Don't make me
saying
spurg
this.
into an argument about something, some side topic, okay, Reed?
But so, like, I think that's why it had so much power, because of the blue check mark and because of the party affiliation.
Absolutely.
So along with that, I think comes a calculation of like what is actually still going to get people to think about something versus what is just going to cause outrage. And I think that was like getting pretty close to the line. I don't really know how much farther you could have gone and still made an effective point. But like I said earlier, I was super happy with where it landed, and I wasn't sure it was going to, because when she quote tweeted it 6 times, it was just inundated with outrage. And I was like, and not like the type of outrage we care about, is just like these, you know, blue and on Democrats, whatever. But then once you started seeing like Tim Pool and you know, Lydia and people that you're supposed to think of, like Lauren Chen, and I'm trying to think who else was there, but there were a lot of people that were just like flat out like, this is disgusting, I want nothing to do with this, this is actually making me more authoritarian, this is why I'm not a libertarian. That was like the most fascinating thing to me about this whole thing. And I think right where we had kind of drawn the line with the tweet was probably a good spot, because it was kind of maximum effectiveness.
Well, I mean, Clint, did it go too far, or what, or did it go far enough?
Oh, it certainly went far enough. And I also don't think it went too far. I honestly think it was like perfect. Because it created this conversation. It created this conversation that we've been having for the past 72 hours now, where we are all, you know, we're explaining. Some of us are backpedaling, some of us are pushing it further. I've tried to use this opportunity to expound on our justification for such anger towards not just Meghan McCain, but towards her father and everybody that shares neoconservatism belief systems. So I'm thrilled that it has actually allowed those conversations to occur. I think that it, especially with terms of service, like, you couldn't go any further than, you know, what Reed did. So I think legally we were right up against the line there. And I don't really care that it upset so many people that are, you know, alleged allies, because I think that those people still value, you know, it's been described as respectability politics. I think many of them are demonstrating a level, you know, even though they may consider themselves deeply red-pilled, that perhaps they're still significantly blue-pilled. That, you know, that they think that they're woke because they stopped wearing their mask and they didn't get the jab, and, you know, like they think that they've been woken up to all of the evils of our propaganda. I think that cowed into believing that you have to respect and have some level of decorum with people that literally would put you in prison without trial for the rest of your life, or blow up innocent people all across the rest of the world. I mean, I can't even relate to them. I honestly can't. I can't relate to the idea of like, but what about her? It's a daughter mourning her father. It's like, yeah, of course that's a sad thing, and of course her emotions are sincere in that moment. I'm not even questioning any of that. It's just that comparatively, like, where was your outrage over their entire multi-decade, you know, the 50-year reign of John McCain? Like, where was the outrage for that? No, it's a meme with 2 words that allows you to go on to these tirades. It just shows how weak and dumb people are, honestly.
Jose, it does bring up an interesting conundrum. I mean, we had a lot of responses, a lot of blue check
The
responses.
Forward Party, forgot about that.
Lauren Chen, Justin Amash, Forward Party, Marcel Dumas, Angela McCardle even said, I have zero control. I will also say McCain was a war criminal, so I'm not personally offended. David Weissman even came on, Sticks and Hammer, Ali Betsa. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. You could see many different opinions. Did the tweet push the ticket, or did it not go far enough?
I mean, I'm not going to say it didn't go far enough, even though that's what everyone was expecting. Although,
Yep.
like, if there was, the point everyone's brought up here is there wasn't really a farther to go. And it was, I will grant that, like, obviously it leans more on shock value. It requires a little bit more of a nuanced interpretation because, I mean, obviously it's 2 words and just a picture, so you have to apply your own interpretation of the context. So it's getting in vague area. But I mean, I have no problem with more offensive, but I think you're at a spot with that where we're like, it's kind of, I don't know how much more offensive you get without taking, getting nuked off of Twitter, or it getting too vague to people don't even understand the idea you're trying to express because they get caught up in the shock. I think it did strike a perfect balance, honestly. Yeah, I really have a hard time imagining. I'm sure there's probably something else out there, and I'm hoping Reed finds it. Something else that's equally as offensive yet right. Because I mean, I'm fine with that. If it's offensive and right, then I feel like that means there's something that's being tugged on that needs to keep getting tugged on. Because I know a lot of people get caught up in all the votes and stuff. That was the big thing. Oh, your guys are never gonna get votes. I'm like, who cares? For one, I think that's actually wrong. I think if you understand how political theory works, especially if you start having like interpreting, especially like things like elite theory, you realize that that's not, you pissed off a bunch of people on Twitter. That doesn't mean you're not gonna get the votes. But also the other point is like, who cares? It's a Libertarian Party. But even if you were to take that, like the idea that like a bunch of people are outraged on Twitter so they won't get votes is silly, because really all it takes is, I think you're actually more likely to get votes with a message like this, being more brash, separating yourself from the group. You will get some people who come out because the vast majority of people are followers. So the idea that a bunch of people are mad doesn't really mean much. It really is a matter of, influence, like, getting some larger people to kind of agree, separating yourself out. Because I mean, just being like the rest doesn't mean anything, whether it be for votes or whether it be for having a message. So yeah.
And for your audience's sake, if they're not familiar, John McCain died of a brain tumor 2 years ago. So that's what the Happy Holidays was about.
Yeah, August 25th. It's a national holiday on the anti-neocon report calendar, right, Eric?
Right. And Eric Jackman, thank you. Right. Eric Jackman is the co-host of the Jackman Radio podcast. Thanks for joining us. Eric, did the tweet go too far, or did it not go far enough?
It was ballsy, and it's cringe, and it's distasteful, and it's all the above, but it's effective. It's been effective. I mean, look at the shitstorm that it caused, and the media frenzy, and the attention that the Libertarian Party has on itself now, actually distinguishing itself as a real alternative and a real form of resistance to the duopoly that we have. Because Clint, maybe you made this tweet, someone did, that when this happens and there's real offense and real shade thrown at the warmongers, the pearl clutching happens in both parties when it's a sacred figure or a sacred cow, and they say, how dare you, how could you, and they show their colors as really just automatons of the state, and that they no matter what they want to uphold that status quo, and they want to keep those figures like a John McCain or like the Cheneys or the Clintons and the Bushes. While there might be superficial disagreement with them or we're against them, at the end of the day, most people will just go in line and say, you can't do that. How dare you? So I think it's been really effective. And, I wanted to put out a tweet that said, hey, Meghan McCain, my dad died of a brain tumor too, but he didn't murder 1 million people.
I remember when I, 15 years ago or something, I had a really good friend of mine who was a hardcore Democrat, and he came up to me and he was talking to me about I think it was 2008 when McCain ran, right? Okay. And he was saying, so, I know you're not a fan of Obama or the Democrats, you voting for McCain. And I said, McCain is arguably the most evil political figure in my lifetime. Of course, I'm not going to vote for him. And he was like, what? McCain's a war hero. And this is coming from a Democrat who's, allegedly anti-war. There's something really profound about the capacity to propagandize the American people into believing that the narrative that these people are like deities or something. It drives me absolutely insane. I mean, you have Joe Biden, who's right up there with McCain in terms of evilness, and he's been utilized to alleviate the pressures from the social justice warrior crowd, which is absolutely insane because he's responsible for so much of the policies that have, ruined minorities' lives. And I think that it's just another example of how detached from reality the narrative is. And I think that anytime we have the opportunity to to shake people from their slumber and say, hey, look at this, look at what these people have done, it's incumbent upon us to do it. I think my biggest disappointment in all this is that the libertarian movement itself, the leadership in its entirety, didn't galvanize in this moment to say, we are not relenting from this. This is exactly what we believe in, that war criminals deserve prison at a minimum. And if we're just going to send out mean tweets, consider yourselves lucky. This is about as nice as we can be about it. But instead you have, the pearl clutching, we need to be respected bullshit that people do. And I just don't think they've learned. I don't think they understand that, these people are never going to respect us. They're already categorizing us as fucking terrorists, for God's sakes.
And I'd say their advocates deserve shame as well. I mean, I'm not saying in every, if you have a friend who's like a neocon, you need to shame them. But if you do, I don't think you're necessarily wrong. It might not be the right way to go about it, but especially public figures like Meghan McCain, no, they merit every bit of ridicule they get. That's why people like Tim Dillon are heroes. Has anyone anyone watches, you haven't seen it, type in Tim Dillon, Meghan McCain, and you'll laugh your ass off. And it's what Reed did, but worse, basically, way worse. And he definitely plays into joking about how she's grifted her entire career off of her dad. And, in her, insane hatred for Trump. Not that I'm a fan of Trump, but she hates him for all the wrong reasons. And
her love for militarism too. It's an exquisite parody. I mean, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to read this. This is the New Hampshire Republican Party. They quote tweeted our tweet and said, "This is a despicable tweet from a despicable organization that pretends to be a political party. Regardless of party, everyone agrees that Senator McCain was a selfless public servant. Anyone serious in New Hampshire about expanding liberty and prosperity should denounce this disgusting display."
Such a joke.
So those are the guys that that's the New Hampshire Republican Party.
Oh my God.
So those are the guys that we're trying to pander to and be like, look, come on, we're like, fuck them. Like they just called us a despicable organization.
They're a bunch of assholes. They're a bunch of self-righteous assholes.
I gotta point out though, it's factually wrong because I replied to that. I'm like, I know damn near most conservatives and progressives hate McCain. It's the centrists. Like the biggest group that came out that was offended by this was the centrists. And then people who were like, okay, to some extent, I can understand how some people that aren't as ardent about it as we are can be like, hey, it's especially a lot of people aren't as informed and don't realize the part Meghan has played in all this. And then they go, oh my God, you're making fun of someone mourning her father. Like, okay, but what did that person mourning their father do? Most people may not be hip to that. So it was the centrist and uninformed people who came out in droves, I think.
True. Yeah.
So anyone to any one of the quadrants of the compass hates McCain. The authoritarian right, the libertarian right,
tweeted
the
something about
authoritarian
this,
left,
too.
the libertarian left, they all hate him. Anyone who's not a centrist hates McCain. So
I love
let me be clear too that I'm not upset with the people that misread it as we are just clowning on this woman's misery in the time of her mourning of her father, and she is, to them, an unknown. God bless them that they're not aware of Meghan McCain's belief system. I wish all of us weren't. So I'm not upset with those people that were like, hey, why are we going after a grieving daughter? That seems really messed up. I understand that knee-jerk reaction, which is why I put out that video of her saying that she wants January 6th people put in Gitmo and treated like Al-Qaeda. And it's like, okay, well, maybe she has now entered the political realm where she is not off grounds.
I want to add, she shamed multiple anti-war people who've advocated against political action on The View in like a despicable way. Not in like a, oh, I disagree, but very much in the way like she kind of, I know there's that clip in your video, Adam, where you had the thing of McCain, you know, calling them scum, the people, you know, protesting the war there. And Meghan has done very similar things. She treats people with complete contempt that are like anti-war people and calls them un-American and all sorts of stuff. So fuck her. You know,
she's also called for Assange to be, you know,
Right.
like
Well,
everything.
Pamela Anderson went on The View and very articulately advocated for Julian Assange's release, for WikiLeaks and the great work, and just really amazing thing for exposing the war machine. And Meghan McCain basically wanted to spit on her. Oh, that Putin says that stuff too. That's Russian disinformation. It's like, shut the fuck up, you know? And I love that Trump was able to do it while McCain was still alive. Look, he's not a war hero. Okay. I like people, I like people who weren't captured. Okay. Like that's the Trump that we all love when he did that and then fucking knocked that guy down a peg before he died.
I got to point out, that's such a good case lesson in the hate of McCain. Like in the Republican Party at that time where I feel like people weren't as extreme against McCain, they still kind of were, but not as much as modern day. He did that during like, and still beat out, like blew the fuck out of the competition, like, you know, in the Republican Party. So like,
these guys are out to fucking lunch I mean, the funny thing is the New Hampshire Republican Party, all of the free staters who are elected are in the Republican Party, you know, and they all fucking hate McCain. So it just shows how out of touch the official Republican Party and the leadership of the Republican Party is with the voters and even the people who are elected to office in the state house of New Hampshire. So
I do want to, real quick, I don't want to hog the thing, but I wanted to point out something Michael Heiss said, and this is in relation to, I think this is something that there's a lesson to be learned. This isn't just a party lesson, it's just a movement lesson in general. But he was obviously speaking to the party, and he was saying the only way you're going to break through in any meaningful, or not even break through, he basically said there's two paths. Like you can essentially go the Cato, the reason path, where you write long papers and you kind of cozy up to the people in DC and you're friendly with them and you engage in civility and like, I don't know, maybe magically somehow along the line that somehow works out. Or you can, you know, brazenly, you know, make your point with no shame for the people who are, you know, objectively our enemies, like these people that are. And then you get these outrage things like what happened with Reed, and it goes big. Like the New York Post thing, like it's one of those beautiful examples. There's been so many articles of the past couple of years where like it's this like thing where like depending on your perspective, how you read it, you can be like, oh my God, that's awful, or oh my God, that's awesome. And this is where like a perfect example of that, where they wrote it to be like, oh my God, look at these hideous people. But if you read it from our lens, you're like, that's the coolest thing I've ever read.
Yeah.
So,
especially when they reach out to the LPNH or they see their follow-up tweets and they're like, see what we'll do when the Clintons kick the bucket, you know, like it was, and we will not be apologizing. And I think Heiss is exactly right. It's like, you will either become a tool of the regime or you will become an enemy of it. And we know which we are. So when are we going to embrace it? You know, when are we going to stop running from our belief system and hiding what we actually believe in just in hopes that our ideas get adopted by the powerful? Like the powerful have no interest in our ideas. They're completely counter to their entire worldview and to their benefit. I mean, it would completely collapse everything that they value. So this is an inevitability. It's just like we're just kind of in the process of speeding it up.
The last two paragraphs in the New York Post. But the party's official Twitter account, which has 23,000, now over 26,000 followers, remained uncowed by the scathing words of criticism and doubled down on calling out its political opponents, whom it labeled war criminals. Wait until you see what we tweet when the Clintons finally kick the bucket, the party gleefully tweeted early Friday. If we don't dance on the graves of war criminals, who will? You know, I'm okay with that going to however many thousand people read that. Like that's awesome.
Coolest thing ever. That's even like that's one of those things that even when I wasn't like big into libertarian theory, if you just shown 16-year-old me that was just like smoking weed and drinking beer, like and just just would be like, whoa, that's cool.
I mean, it is two paragraphs that you could find in the dictionary behind the word based. It is the most based shit I have ever seen in my life, and I am so fucking thrilled that happened. And the crazy thing is that more people saw the tweet on Twitter. I mean, you guys have over 10 million impressions, as far as I know, than will ever read of the New York Post or any of these other rags that try and spin it for their own purposes. I just think it was a masterpiece.
Yeah, that those two paragraphs are like if Snake Island was a true story. It's basically the same thing. Like, get fucked.
And to just give an example of what Eric was talking about before, I'll just play a little bit of a video montage, in which I made last night hurriedly regarding the follow-up to that tweet. And it actually talks about the silent agreement between Meghan McCain and John McCain's policies. And this one is just about the WikiLeaks Iraq issue.
My Democratic colleagues by the facts on the ground. The facts on the ground in Iraq are very clear. Now, there are many political pundits, there are some editorial writers, or those that stake some of their reputation on saying this war was lost, as well, along with Harry Reid and a lot of the other Democrat politicians. But I think the majority of the American people are smart, and they know that we are succeeding in Iraq, and that we have succeeded in Iraq, and that we will, and I am confident we will win this war when we keep on with the present strategy and not do what Senator Obama wants to do, and that's set specific dates for withdrawal. And again, I'd like to point out, the same people that are saying that we have to set dates for withdrawal are the same people that said we would fail in Iraq. They were wrong then, and they're wrong now.
Yes. What would you do if you were locked in a room for
just really quick
6 years?
Well, I wouldn't be a cyber terrorist, which he is.
He's
He
not a
hacked
cyber
information. His leaks included classified documents that put our national security at risk, our military,
You know who
and the
put our
lives
national
of
security
spies
at risk
and diplomats
is the
at risk.
military. How many people have
The military,
American
so-
government killed innocently, and how many has WikiLeaks?
So you think the military is putting the government at risk?
The military has put many innocent lives at risk.
Oh, calm down, sir. For real, I'm actually genuinely
There are
curious
war
about your
crimes
relationship.
Talking to you, Jose.
we have war crimes need to be punished, and they haven't. The war crimes that he's exposed, no one's done anything about it, but they put him in jail to shut him up.
Are you
because he
talking
is
about the 210 video of the helicopter fire killing civilians in Iraq?
Yeah, well, that's one thing, but there's so many other things that he's exposed. And
So what would you say to the spies who are putting themselves at risk for our national security with your relationship with him?
well, I don't think there's nothing proven that he's actually put anybody at risk. They've gone through this over and over again, and I think that people like Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning are heroes, and Julian Assange is a publisher.
Who knows?
I mean, it does bring up an interesting conundrum, because here we have a former Baywatch beauty star, Playboy, who's actually having a moral position over the daughter of a gratuitous,
I wanted to say, Adam,
sociopath in the political field.
the one
Eric,
blonde who,
let's
yeah,
go to the reverse. Eric, what are your thoughts about
the
it?
one blonde who's actually on tape sucking dick is far less of a pig than the other blonde that's just sitting across from, you know? So yeah, no, I had to bring up that because I did watch that recently, and that is, it's just telling. And her whole career and her whole grift, she wouldn't have it if it wasn't for her warmongering father. So that legacy lives on through her. She hasn't disavowed his policy. She hasn't said Iraq was a mistake. She hasn't any kind of apology. I've never heard of her expressing any kind of sadness or sympathy with the millions of lives that were ruined, killed, displaced, the families who lost people in Iraq. So, fuck her and fuck John McCain.
Jose, it does bring up an interesting conundrum. Here we have, Meghan McCain, who basically is echoing the sentiments of her father. And like I said, with she may not have been responsible, but she certainly is playing in the same ballpark, and she certainly didn't denigrate any of her father's policies. And like I said, the critique of her, as shown in that tweet by New Hampshire, was it warranted or not? But as you could see, for anybody who's opposing the view that she's off limits, I mean, the video itself tells you that she certainly isn't denigrating the policies which led to over 1 million deaths in Iraq.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, she's just despicable. I genuinely don't care. I know the biggest thing is a lot of people point out like, oh, she was just giving her opinion, and like So I will admit that she's probably not legally culpable in any sort of way. Like if we were in magical anarchy land, I don't think we'd take her to our private courts and, but we very well may ridicule her to a ridiculous extent or try to exile her. Because she's definitely not a positive influence, and I think there is a case to be made, although it is a weaker case. I know a lot of people do it on Twitter. I haven't leaned into it, because then you just end up in the weeds arguing a weak case. A lot of people try to make the case that she is responsible because she is part of the media apparatus. Obviously, all of us here have gone down the wormhole, down different conspiracies and stuff. So, there's obviously, Operation Mockingbird. You can make a case that she is, to some extent, an arm of the government. That's going to be a really hard case to prove. So I genuinely don't go there, but yeah, I mean, at some point, yes, she may not be legally responsible, but in some sort of way, she is, I think, responsible. Maybe not in a way that you could, do any legal action in a righteous world, but yeah, she is definitely to some extent responsible for the deaths because she continues to advocate them on a large public stage. So I mean, once again, I'll end this on the sentiments of fuck Meghan McCain. So.
I think this is a huge issue where people don't understand that the media is, and I'm not saying that anyone on this panel doesn't see this clearly, but I think a lot of people don't understand the media's role in, propagating the masses to support militarism. Like it's been a constant. So everyone just kind of thinks like, well, this is just their opinions. We can have differences of opinion. It's like, look, if you advocate for war crimes, your opinion is terrible, and I'm going to tell you that, and as Jose was saying, like, I'm not saying she's criminally liable, but it's crystal clear that she has some moral culpability, crystal clear. So I don't think there's any reason to believe that she's off guard or out of bounds. And I certainly don't think that the media is. I don't think she's being paid by the CIA to believe this stuff. I really don't. I think that she's the daughter of a fucking warmonger, and this is what she's been raised to believe. But then she gets a job, and the reason that the media gives her that job is because she has the last name of McCain, and she's going to represent the war machine, but with a Republican behind her name, so that she can then, normalize this to the masses. I mean, her whole job was to be a bullshit version of conservatism that propagates war crimes and the ideas of wine moms on daily television. Like, why would I have any respect for someone like that? They're like the lowest of the low, as far as I'm concerned. So it's just weird that anyone thinks that she should be out of bounds.
I believe it was Noam Chomsky that said that. It's like said to some reporter, he was like, the line that's like, I guess the reporter said, "What do you think I'm like, corrupt?" He's like, "I'm not saying you're corrupt. I'm saying that you wouldn't be here if you didn't have this position." Exactly. And that is a point to remember. And I do think people need to look into things like Operation Mockingbird and stuff like that and realize to what extent the major media companies, whether they may not be 100% infiltrated, it could just be a mechanism of the larger people or influence. Who knows? I don't know how the feds do it. They do it a million different ways, but to some extent, they basically are just an arm of the government. Like and OKC, I can't remember which major network, but one of the major networks was offered by an FBI agent. They brought him. I guess they brought the major network the film of John Doe 2, the fabled one that the feds said, "Oh, I don't have the security footage anymore. I just disappeared." And they offered to give it to him, I think said for like $1 million. And I guess they somehow they contacted the feds or something along those lines and said no. Which if that was a legit major network that wasn't owned by the feds, yeah, maybe they wouldn't have paid $1 million. Maybe would have haggled with him, but they wouldn't have alerted to him the feds right off the bat. Like that was the most insane scoop you could have for a genuine media company. That is just corruption at its peak, in my opinion. So, and the examples abound. That's just the first that came to my head.
Let me add to real quick that think about how incredible it is that like 15 years ago on the campaign trail, John McCain had to really argue about maintaining the wars, whereas today that debate is basically non-existent.
Yeah,
and I think that's what bothers me so much, and why I believe that Reed's actions are so vitally necessary, is that we have to wake people up to the fact that we still have tons of wars that are going on. They're not the most overt thing in nature, but you still have tens of thousands of troops that are deployed. You still have bombs that are being dropped pretty much every day. It's like when are we gonna, have a real debate about this stuff? And this type of action starts debates when the media has put everyone else totally to sleep, so that they're completely ignoring all of the pain and suffering that's occurring.
Real quick, I wanted to add, I do love, this is just a thought that occurred to me. The beauty of this Meghan McCain thing is it does show, because a lot of people will hide behind, that was in the past or whatever. I mean, they'll still advocate similar actions, or they'll say like, it wasn't me who did it, like that was the politicians or whatever. But this does get at the root of, like, for especially a lot of the major ones, that this type of social shaming is not off limits for you. It's not. And I'm completely fine with it. And like, you don't need to have a direct hand, as in like being a literal, general or politician or whatever. I mean, I think it's genuinely good enough. As Malice says, the corporate media is the enemy of the people, and I think they should be treated as such, especially in situations like this. I know it's a little bit murky because Meg McCain, like, I don't know, I guess you can call her the corporate media since she was in The View. It's a little bit murky, but yeah, same basic concept. So
no, I think this is a great point raised by you and Clinton Eric before. Reed, the essence of your idea given to the New Hampshire Libertarian Party tweet really caused a cause of contention, and an idea popped in my head last night. I said, this is basically a moral issue. And the moral issue is that she certainly is not disassociated from McCain's policies. Now, she certainly didn't create these policies, but she certainly advocated for them, which is the reason why I wanted to show that in the video I made last night and the video I just shared with you here. I mean, this goes right at the heart of the matter of the libertarian movement, which is anti-war, the sanctity of human life. Certainly, people who disagree with that idea that you made last night have to take into account that Meghan McCain certainly isn't clean in this issue.
No, yeah. I mean, I think the media, man, Eric, that video of Raging Dissident from a couple weeks ago where he's like, the journalists, the poor journal, everyone needs, oh my God, it's so good. And his whole point in the rant is that, that's Jeremy McKenzie, the Raging Dissident, but his whole point is that, the media sold everything that we've gotten into, whether it was the wars, the COVID hysteria of the last couple of years, and they're held the least responsible. So you can vote a politician out if you don't like him, and you can get a different governor maybe, unless you're in California, but the media is not held responsible, and the media just goes on to whatever the next lie or the next frenzy is, and capitalizes off of it. So that's why I was saying at the beginning, in some ways Meghan McCain is actually more influential than John McCain, because John McCain was a senator for however many years, but she was a face that, like Clint was saying, made it appetizing for, middle-aged moms or soccer moms, whatever, to be like, yeah, I support war because Meghan McCain does, and Meghan McCain is one of these acceptable conservative women. So yeah, fuck her. I just wanted to give Reed Cooley, and this was actually Jose's idea, but they towered Meghan McCain's response to the Libertarian Party in New Hampshire with "Daddy is in hell" pork chop, which was pretty based. I think we should throw that out there. That and I think this is fine to say because it's public out there, but Reed Cooley led the tower. So even though the official Libertarian Party account didn't do anything, Reed Cooley is the comms director for the Libertarian Party, and he was all in on it and everything. And I'm sure he's gotten all sorts of hell for helping us out with that. But props to Reed Cooley for being Mondo based. Just want to throw that in there.
There was one video last night that made me think of all of you in the terms of the Libertarian movement, is because your guys
was it by Dickie Walnuts? No,
yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
That's a great video, by the way, by Dickie Walnuts.
So good.
Great montage. And also, but there's this one video of McCain, and it's basically him introducing one of the absolute most deplorable human beings on the planet, who defies just moral ambiguity in total, and one of the worst war criminals in history, Henry Kissinger, who basically is responsible for the deaths of so many Cambodians and Vietnamese, and God knows how many millions were killed throughout the 60s and 70s. And I thought that it was the defense of John McCain to one of the worst individuals on planet Earth. And basically the opposing crowd that basically were chanting what you guys would have chanted if you saw McCain. Let me play that video just a little bit. I want to get your opinion.
Arrest Henry Kissinger for war crimes! Arrest Henry Kissinger for war crimes!
Committee will stand in recess until the Capitol Police can restore.
Arrest Henry Kissinger for war crimes!
I've been a member of this committee for many years, and I have never seen anything as disgraceful and outrageous and despicable as the last demonstration that just took place about, you know, you're going to have to shut up or I'm going to have you arrested. If we can't get the Capitol Hill Police in here immediately, get out of here, you low-life scum.
Capitol Police not doing their job as usual.
I mean, really, and now just imagine if I saw you guys behind it, you would say much worse to him anyway. But boy, John McCain rushing to the defense of one of the worst war criminals and speaking out against the essence of your movement, the Libertarian movement, which is anti-war.
Very on brand.
Eric, you know, what would be, you know, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's just telling, man. All the slugs, man, they stick together, and they never came across a war they didn't love. You know, they never opposed expanding our militarism and furthering the police state and the security apparatus that is now with the COVID regime in the last 2.5 years has brought its boot down even more on the people of the United States and around the world. So I'm not surprised at all. And if I was there, I would have, you know, collected a week's worth of porta potty shit to throw at Henry Kissinger. Fucking slime.
Imagine getting Tower Gang inside the Capitol building just to fucking protest one of these guys. That would be incredible.
Oh, we tried on January 6th. It didn't work out.
And
I mean,
no,
Jose, go ahead, take it away.
Oh, I was just making a silly joke. Yeah, no, I mean, I already touched on that earlier. That was kind of my point, and we've seen much the same sort of vitriol from Meghan McCain. So the idea, because that's the big key thing, is a lot of people, there is confusion, and then also people caught up in respectability politics about someone who's tangentially connected. Although the point being is, she's more connected than people think. But yeah, I know. I'd have no problem with someone pissing on the grave of John McCain. I have no love lost for him. I only wish he had died earlier. So
well, let me just point out that exactly what our detractors have been doing for the past 72 hours is what McCain did right there. He's demanding. He's saying, "I've never seen anything more disgusting." It's like what is more disgusting than the wars that this man has propagated? But they can then pivot and say that protesters saying that war criminals should be behind bars, they're the disgusting ones, not us, because we do it with our tie tight and tight, and our coat jacket, our suits are all finely pressed. This is respectability here. You know, we drop bombs with respectability. And let me also point out, look how fucking pathetic the left wing is now. You used to have a great organization like Code Pink that was out there actually protesting war criminals. Where are they now? You know, it's like this is the whole reason that we're necessary, is because both the left and right has been I don't know, they've been defanged.
That's a complete inversion of reality, and that's what the elite does, and that's why the media exists. It exists to invert reality, and then gaslight the masses and project the fear and shame you if you speak out against it. So this is a fucking tilt in the Matrix read. You know, the Matrix tilted a little bit.
I know. Well,
what happened?
One of the best takes I saw on it was not from a libertarian. It was from a hardcore. I think she's a communist actually, but I mean she's definitely like hard left winger. Caitlin Johnstone. Yeah. Oh yeah. She's based as fuck. But she wrote a whole Substack article that the tweet inspired. And she made the point that poking fun at John McCain and Meghan McCain proves that or points to the fact that John McCain's victims' lives mattered more than Meghan McCain's feelings. And that's really what this comes down to, because respectability politics is about feelings. It doesn't hurt anything other than your feelings. So if that matters to you more than ridiculing someone who has murdered millions of people, then you care more about you care more about feelings than facts, and facts don't care about your feelings. So
I do want to real quick point out, Reed, that I believe Hans Hermann Hoppe would be proud of you, because I believe it was in Democracy, the God That Failed. He pointed out one of the only ways to move the needle or to push things forward is to make a joke of the system.
Yeah.
And the issue is respectability politics. Kind of like the fact that they have any respectability, they don't. Like, we need to point out to the world that they don't. They are not respectable, and they deserve no respect. What was I gonna say? Another point on that, but yeah. Maybe some of the post-libertarians might get mad about that. He had some slightly different aspects of praxis, but yes, definitely need to make a joke of the system. Oh, I remember my own point. I know a lot of time people get caught up in that, making a joke of the system, and then they end up making a joke of ourselves. And a lot of people will accuse us of like, oh, you're making a joke of yourself. I believe it's exact opposite. It's kind of like a lot of people would point to Vermin Supreme and thought he was great. Like, oh my God, look what it. No, he made a joke of us. Like, he made us look fucking foolish. Like, whereas something like this makes a joke of them. Like, right. No, fuck you. You're a joke. You deserve no respect. I will clown on your misery. And I think it's beautiful, honestly.
Well, you said that it's Hoppian, but let me give you another one from the completely inverted spectrum. Sololinsky with Rules for Radicals says, ridicule is man's most potent weapon. He says a good tactic is one your people enjoy. So our people really enjoyed this tactic. He also says that make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. That's what they're attempting to do with us. They're trying to apply their morality to us when we're trying to apply our morality to them. We're saying murder is wrong. They're saying you have to be respectable. We're rejecting that.
That touches on the remnant concept. I don't think Ron Paul was the original person, but he was probably the one that popularized it. The idea of the identifying the remnant. Actually, I wish I could remember. It's the top of my head who actually originated it, but I've read his book. But anyways, the idea of this stuff like this, I think it's far more important in group signaling than out group signaling. Something like this, it sends out a beacon of light to those who see this and agree. And this is what we want more of. Yes, and then everyone goes, oh my God, what will the other people think? I don't really care. Those are not the people I'm concerned about. The people I'm concerned about are the people who will agree with us and be heartened to do similar. And, carry on, and, we can network, and do all sorts of other things. Yes, I want more people, I want every, tweet that any respectability politics person puts out there, especially our enemies, to be ratioed to hell, clowning them, making fun of the worst moments in their life. I don't care. So, yeah.
So before we wrap this up, I do want to have one question. I want to get everyone's answer regarding it, and I'll go in the reverse. And Eric, I'll start with you. If you were trying to reach somebody on the opposite spectrum of anti-war, somebody who criticizes the tweet, somebody who defends the grieving emotions of a relative who engages in mass murder and genocide, what message would you like to send to them to win them over to your side? What would be the tactic that you would use?
Well, what this does, it's kind of a shock to people or polite company and respectability, but it creates an opening. So people will say, well, why was a tweet in such distaste created like this? Well, here, let me send you a little video called Collateral Murder, where our troops fired on innocent journalists in Iraq and slaughtered a dozen people and continued to fire on them. Let me show you that. I don't think you've seen that before. Let me show you images of wedding parties where people were celebrating their weddings in Pakistan or Iraq or Syria or wherever, Yemen, the 7 countries that we bombed. Let me show you the aftermath of a drone strike. And then let me show you what that does to the local population and the kid who survived that drone strike, who was 12, who then became radicalized and joined ISIS. So it creates an opening to have that conversation and show them that the real stuff. So that's usually what I do to try to get people on board. And it's classic, man. It's golden rule. Do you want that done to you? Do you want to be at a relative's wedding and have a drone strike come and kill everybody in your wedding party and your family? Think about that for a sec. Put the shoe on the other foot and change your perspective and your point of view.
I want to real quick clarify something I said because I realize I misstated. Someone could get offended. Not that I really care too much, but I don't think you should go that depraved with everyone engaged in respectability politics. I mean, yeah, still ratio them, but don't go to like making fun of like their parents dying or something. You know, save that for the actual warmongers. But yes, even the respectability politics, troll on them. But you know, and because I mean, we have some like centrists engaged in it, or our kind, they're engaged in respectability politics. Still think you should make fun of them, but maybe not to McCain level. But you know, just to clarify.
Is it what tactics would you use to win people over to the anti-war movement?
What Reed did.
Base.
Yeah. No, for real. I do think you should be clowning on them. And then the biggest thing too is I do think I'm not saying always just aggro all the time, because you'll see, and I think a lot of people need to, you know, maybe figure out their metric of figuring out better. But if you have someone engaging with you in good faith, you know, someone who is offended by this, I'm not saying be mean to them right off the bat or whatever. Explain to them. But yeah, no, I genuinely think if someone's, you know, coming at you already with bad faith and they're engaging with it, no, ridicule. I mean, or ignore, you know, depending on who it is. If it's some 5 follower account, yeah, who cares? But, you know, yes, that basically more of what Reed did, honestly. I do think that's the way forward. I don't think you're going to win a whole lot of people over, but while you're engaging on this sort of large stage, but with the respectability politics, it's a different dynamic when you're interacting on an individual level. Obviously, your people that you meet at work or whatever, you know, do it. I mean, I've definitely ridiculed people with stuff like that before, but it depends on the scenario. Usually, the only time that ever really is going to work is if you have a crowd. Because if you're at the point where you're ridiculing someone, you need to realize that you're probably not going to reach them. It's more for the people that's watching. So if you're ever in an interpersonal one-on-one thing, almost never does it really work to resort to ridicule or stuff like, because unless you're trying to provoke some sort of specific reaction for some means or whatever. But you know, for the most part, one-on-one, it does make sense. This is why people, I think, have an issue with this. They have this ingrained like, oh, we gotta be civil. Like, no, you don't always have to be civil. It depends on the context, because people aren't, you know, we have so many people who are binary brained. No, it depends on the context. If you're interacting with some politician on Twitter, is way different than interacting with your friend Bob on the train. Very different things. So, you know, and
Clint, how would you go about reaching people from the opposite spectrum, people who criticize the tweet?
Well, I mean, I actually said it in my follow-up thread this morning. I just said, if you found the meme offensive, I want you to reflect on why. Was it because you felt sympathy for her loss? Good. That means you haven't lost your humanity. Now, please extend that same sympathy to the millions of displaced or dead innocents throughout the Middle East. I think that's really at its core the point we're trying to make here, is that people are not paying attention to what really matters. You know, a meme, I can't even believe that people are so in an uproar over this. It's stunning. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but it's like, you have 10 million impressions on this thing. I mean, that's lunacy. It probably took Reed 20 seconds to fucking think it up and hit it and send it out. You know, it's like, it's amazing when you shake people's worldview that it can cause such an outrage. And what I'm trying to accomplish here is that, you know, as some other people on the panel have said, you know, most people are followers. So I think it's important that they realize that there is a significant percentage of this country that does not support the warfare state and the militarism that we have basically just accepted as an inevitability for my entire life. And that's what I'm trying to do, is trying to create a home for those people, a movement for those people, so that they can feel as if, you know, if they are just the follower type, that they can feel secure in expressing it. Because at this point, obviously, many people do not feel secure in expressing it. You can see our detractors that are within the libertarian movement that don't feel secure in expressing it. And I think that's a huge issue, and one that, you know, maybe this doesn't help to alleviate, but at least it shows who's capable of stepping outside the bounds of allowable opinion and you know, speaking to our true belief system.
Reed, what would you say to those who criticize your idea posted by New Hampshire Libertarian Party? How would you reach people to become part of the most important, for me, and I think for you guys as well, if I'm careful to say, the most important issue, which is the sanctity of human life anti-war? How would you go about it?
Yeah, well, I've been a shitlord for a long time, and personally I've had a really crass sense of humor. But when I first started having an online presence, I was actually a little bit more reined in, much more I would actually look similar to like Justin Amash or something on Twitter. I'd just be doing a thread about why the minimum wage is a bad idea, or why, this and that doesn't work or whatever. And I just realized nobody gives a shit. Like, if you're just giving exposition without any sort of hook, no one will read it, and regardless of how good or solid your points are. So then I started, getting a little edgier. And like I said, I think it always has to have a point. Like, if you're just being edgy for the case of being edgy without educating people on anything or having something that's true involved in what you're saying, then it kind of falls flat. But I just started doing that, and my success has exploded since then. It's been, when I had a Twitter account, I'd get thousands of reactions on tweets because I would say something really crass or really funny or really controversial that made a point. And then you can hook people in and get them to read more exposition because maybe they're going to be interested. So one of you guys, I think it was Eric, was saying, like, some people might be like, why do you guys hate Meghan McCain so much? We got tons of comments like that to LPNH. And since the tweet went out, and then tweets leading up to it for like the last couple of weeks, we've been pushing stuff out about Defend the Guard, about trying to end the war in Yemen and our involvement in the war in Yemen. And so it wasn't like we just threw this tweet in a vacuum and there wasn't any supporting documents to be like, yo, this is what's wrong with this person. If you went through our entire feed, you could read it everywhere. And we're just bringing all the exposition forward, explaining why we tweeted what we tweeted. And I think that's the way you got to do it. Like, it's usually the shock value, get people interested, what's going on here, and then you explain to them why things are the way they are. So one of my friends who's been like a hardcore right-wing neoconservative his whole life, I just made a tweet, or no, this was on Facebook actually. I made a post on Facebook where I described John McCain, and it was like war crimes, responsible for the deaths of millions of people, blah, blah, blah. But the picture at the top was Hitler. And then when it got to the bottom, it said, this is all John McCain, picture unrelated. And, so that got a lot of people like, holy shit. But, John McCain is a Hitler to a lot of people in Iraq or Afghanistan or Syria. He's a Pol Pot. He's a Mao Zedong. He's a Joseph Stalin. He's no different than those other men in uniform directing people to go, exterminate or bomb or whatever different people around the world from an office. Like, he's the same exact thing. So it's usually just that shock, and then you get people to try to think a little bit different way and fill it with exposition. And I think it's the most effective.
Pretty sure McCain beat Hitler's body count too. So
yeah, he's like 300,000. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Just to give my own thoughts regarding, I'm not a libertarian, but I ran into you guys for the past 2 years, and unlike you, I'm very self-demurred when it comes to emotions, and was once called the McNeil-Lurher Hour of 9/11, which is basically a boring TV station, but they're generally pretty good when it comes to information. I think that you guys have the right idea in regards to how to catch an audience, and you do it with style, you do it with different personalities, but you're very gregarious, which basically brings attention in negatively and positively. But the thing is, it's attention to important subjects. And, I hate to do it to you, but I did it to Clint last week when Ed was here, and we talked about the Second Amendment, but he handled it very graciously. And I'll say that I think the last bastion of hope regarding the way forward for humanity is through anti-war, and I think it's through you people, you guys in the libertarian movement. Why I'm supportive of you guys, and I think because it's a huge weight, and I hate to do it, but you may not see it this way. I'm a little bit older than most of you, but I think that without the libertarian movement or people of the anti-war movement, for example, if we don't have this, then we don't have anybody to speak out against the very apparatuses that are using the masses in agreement for conflict overseas, because they're overseas. Nobody cares. But only when they only care when it happens here right at home. But by then it's too late. With the Republicans and Democrats who have come out and basically criticized the tweet that you gave the idea to read, and to you guys who basically supported that tweet, basically just shows that there is no true left and right paradigm regarding the more important issues. And those issues are the Pentagon, foreign policy guidelines, geopolitics in general. There is a divisive issue when it comes to domestic issues such as Social Security, healthcare, and stuff. And that's only because it's meant to divide us all together as one, as from each other. Because if we're united as one, there's no way that they can overcome us. And I think it's from you guys, basically, who bring the anti-war message that is so sorely important now more than ever, because we have a Ukraine crisis, a Yemen crisis from the left, and the right are proposing China and Iran in the future. Yeah. So it's you guys, and I hate to do it to you, that are going to be the most vocal and the most important voices going the way forward. And I can't thank you enough for coming on here today, talking about these issues today. And I think it's really important. And even though I'm a small channel, you guys are the bigger channels, the bigger voices. And I wanted your thoughts about the subject regarding Meghan McCain and why I think the public should criticize her, even though she's not the proponent for most of these conflicts overseas, but certainly advocates for them. And really, thank you, each and every one of you. And I'll go to Eric. Eric, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, thanks for putting this together, Adam. Sorry I jumped in quickly. And I just want to say, I hope Meghan McCain's going to get some student loan relief from Brandon at the very least. It's been a rough week for her, so you could use the money. Yeah, Jackman Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Senator Jackman, Jackman Radio. And we have a Patreon account, patreon.com/Jackman Radio. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on there. We push the envelope as far as we can. We don't want to lose our channel. We've worked hard to build it up. But yeah, Adam, thanks so much, man. This is great. And I'm very humbled by those sentiments. And it's awesome we've all found each other in these last few years, because we do have the anti-war streak in us, and we do line up on the really big picture important issues. So we've got a lot more ahead of us, and we're going to be with Ron Paul next week. So that'll be great too. So thanks a lot, Adam.
Jose.
Yeah, I want to thank you for your sentiments. I also want to point out there's some truth to it, because there's this one point I think I brought up, and maybe some others throughout this panel, is the idea of how all the hate that Reed got back from it, and everyone being like, oh, and kind of idea of like a small group of people and what it can do. I know it may sound silly, but this group right here, I mean, I guess Eric isn't really one of the Tower Power guys, but he's tangentially associated with us. Four Horsemen. I can't tell you how many things, and I don't even mean to bloviate about ourselves. A small group of idiots that are aggressive and kind of know their stuff have changed the course of things over this. Like, I mean, hell, even Reed. I mean, we used to, when we first met him, the Tower Power guys, the Tower Gang, whatever. Like, we did not like him. He came off as like a centrist milquetoast, and and then we talked to him and we realized how awesome he was. And I think we kind of encouraged him to get a little bit more hardcore. So I just think a cohesive group of people, with a shared sense of purpose can really make a big difference. So the idea that you need some a large group of people to get things done, a bunch of votes, it's not the case. Small groups of people that are cohesive, that get other followers, it kind of snowballs, it can make a huge difference. But yeah, I'm Jose Galison. I have the No Way Jose show. Follow me on YouTube, all the major auto podcatchers, Odyssey as well. You can follow me at Twitter at SenorJose2020. I took a week off because I just got a strike for questioning that religious ceremony we do every 4 years. That was actually with Reed, Clint, and Top Lobster. We did a panel. That's what did it. I took it as a chance to take a week off, but I have a bunch of hot ones coming in. I have Brandon Caserta coming back on, going into the details of the Michigan kidnapping trial. I'm starting a new live reading series with Aaron for Time on Earth, and then also after that, I'm continuing my OKC bombing series with Richard Booth. We still probably have at least 2 more episodes in the can before we'll exhaust it, and even then, I may end up doing bonus episodes with different people covering different angles, because it goes so deep when you go into OKC. It just really does. I've done already probably at least 7 hours on it. It'll probably be well over 10 by the time it's done. I know it sounds daunting, but it's one of those things. Once you start, digging into it, you're like, holy moly, that series has been doing really well. So I highly suggest people go check it out if you're gonna check out my work. So I appreciate you having me on. It was fun talking to all of you.
Yeah, Clint.
Yeah, I would just say that, whether or not we can actually be the inflection point in this tyrannical system or not, I have no idea. But I do think that we're filling a market demand. Like there is a desire for people that speak the truth, a hardcore libertarian truth, and they do it, unabashedly. So I'm thrilled to have found, this network of people, and I think that we've only just begun. I really do think that we're gonna shake up the world. Whether or not we fix the world, I have no idea, but we're gonna shake this bitch up. So let's keep going. As for my show, I just had Dave Smith and Andrew Napolitano on yesterday. Second half of the interview with Dave was tremendous. Really talked about our childhoods and fatherhood and things like that. So I think that you guys will enjoy that. And then if you want the latest on the FBI raid, my interview with Napolitano was eye-opening as always. I also have sorry, on September 4th, Sticks, X, and Hammer 666 versus Dave Smith debating Trump's legacy. I'm sure we will have much more of the debate on the militarism that seems consistent no matter who is president. I think that'll be an interesting one, and probably the biggest episode I'll ever do, or have ever done at least. So I hope everyone will subscribe to Liberty Lockdown. Go check that out. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am 450 away from 50,000. Get me there at Liberty Lock Pod. Thank you for having me, Adam.
Sure. Reed.
Yeah, so I don't have Twitter, but follow at LPNH, Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, on there. And also at FSP, that's the Free State Project. I am on YouTube, Odyssey, Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcast, all that, with my show, The Naturalist Capitalist. I'll be doing The Four Horsemen tomorrow night with Phil Labonte as our special guest, with Eric and Ryan Dawson. And then Monday night, I'm going on Clint's show to talk about this fiasco. Let's see, Tuesday night, I'm going on Allison Morrow's YouTube channel. Wednesday night, we'll have Tower Gang. And then Thursday night, I'm going on Revenge of the Cis to talk about this tweet too.
Oh,
so
it's
follow me on those platforms. And then I've got a Substack that I've really been pushing, just substack.com/Reed Coverdale. Check me out there, putting out 2 or 3 articles a week. And Telegram, that's my kind of shitty replacement for Twitter right now, because I'm not allowed there. But thanks for having me on, Adam. I really appreciate all the exposition you add. You're kind of like Ryan Dawson without the rabbit trails. I can kind of, like, if I want to know something, I can have Adam on and just talk about it. Don't have to like rein him in all the time. So you've really red pilled a lot of people on our intelligence agencies and the greater effects of 9/11 and how that's destroyed the 21st century. So I really appreciate you too.
Yeah, I want to echo that real quick, because I can't tell you how many times, Adam, you've actually really come in clutch, because I do think your kind is an important part of this dynamic, because I can't tell you how many tiffs we've gotten in where we're in this ambiguous world, and then you'll go a deep dive and going to the specifics of it. That way, for anyone who is really like, oh my God, what's going on here, is genuinely concerned, genuinely, from a good faith position, being like, I don't know how to come down on this because I'm confused about the details, and they'll check yours out. And I mean, even some of the silliest stuff, but it's been super important, because like you were one of the first people out with this to provide more context, and some of our other tiffs we have, which I'm not going to bring it up because I don't want to rehash old stuff. But
yeah, Adam will be like, I just read like a 600-page article yesterday and did a 4-hour live stream on it, so no big deal.
He's like, I actually tracked down the type of toothpaste Muhammad Ali used on September 10th. and it was a totally different one in the 9/11 Commission.
Oh, yeah. Lordy, you know how to make a guy blush. I'll end it like this. George Santayana once said that those who tend to forget the past are doomed to repeat it. Let's not repeat the mistakes of the past of our forefathers and those who have basically gave way to the worst of types of atrocities for humankind. And let's make the future just a little bit of a better world. And like I said before, I think that way forward will be from you young men in general. And so I'll end it like that. Thank you very much for tuning in And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for coming on, guys.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.